Sorry about that. My computer quit. Start over. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Vijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Good morning, devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Prayesha Vadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamas Loke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki. So we are reading the 5th canto, 5th chapter, 30th verse. Oh, actually, Dasya Prema's comment. I heard that in previous times when it was my turn to give class, the music you couldn't hear the music, so I changed the settings. Now you can hear it okay? Yeah? Any thumbs up or down? Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So here's the verse. Thanks to Taraka Prabhu for, as usually, posting the verse. And it goes like this, and this is, again, is prose. It's not written in, as usual, in a rhyming poetry. Tatra tatra pura gramakara khetavata karvata shibira vrajagosha sartagiri vanashramadishu anupatham avinachara pasadai paripyu manumakshi kabiriva vanagajas tarjana tadavamehana stivanagrava sakrid Raja Prakshepa Puti Vata Duruktaistad Aviganayan Eva Satsamsthana Itasmin Dehupalakshane Tat Sadapadesha Ubayanubhava Swarupena Swa Mahima Vastanena Samarot Pitaham Mama Bimanatva avikandita mana pritivim ekachara paribhabrama. Synonyms. Tatra, tatra, here and there. Pura, cities. Grama, villages. Akara, mines. Kita, agricultural places. Vata, gardens. Karvata, villages in valleys. Shibira, military encampments. Vraja, cow pens. Gosha, residential places of cowmen. Sarta, resting places for pilgrims. Giri, hills. Vana, forest. Ashrama, in the residential places of hermits. Adishu, and so on. Anupatam, as he passed through. Avanichara apasadai, by undesirable elements, wicked persons. Paribhyumana, being surrounded. Makshikabhi, by flies. Iva, like. Vanagaja, an elephant coming from a forest. Tarjana, by threads. Tadana, beating. Avamehana, passing urine on the body. Stivana, spitting on the body. Gravasakrit, stones and stool. Raja, dust. Prakshepa, throwing. Puttivata, passing air over the body. Duruktai, and by bad words. Tat, that. Avigananayan, without caring about. Eva, thus. Asat samstane, habitat not fit for a gentleman. It does mean, in this, deha upalakshane, in the shape of a material body. Satapadeshe, called real. Ubhaya anubhava swarupena, by understanding the proper situation of the body and the soul. Swamahima, in his personal glory. Vastanena, by being situated. Asamorupita ahammama abhimanatvat, from not accepting the misconception of I and mine. Avikandita mana, undisturbed in mind. Pritivim, all over the world. Ikakara, alone. Paribhabrama, he wandered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Vrishabhadev began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowermen, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him. Sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble. But he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. Purport. Narottam Das Thakur says, Deha smriti nahiyara samsara bandhana kahantara. When a person fully realizes that the material body and world are temporary, he is not concerned with pain and pleasures of the body. As Sri Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita 2:14, Matra sparshas tukanteya shitusna sukha dukkada agamapaya nityas tamstitikshasvarvarata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, no sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. As far as Vrishabhadev is concerned, it has already been explained, idam sharidam mama durvibhavayam. He did not at all possess a material body, and therefore he was tolerant of all the trouble offered to him by the bad elements in society. Consequently, he could tolerate people throwing stool and dust upon him and beating him. His body was transcendental and consequently did not at all suffer pain. He was always situated in his spiritual bliss. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Videshar Junatistati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of a material energy. Since the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, He's in the heart of hogs and dogs also. If hogs and dogs in the material bodies live in filthy places, one should not think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature also lives in a filthy place. Although Lord Rishabhadev was maltreated by the bad elements of the world, he was not at all affected. Therefore it is stated here, Swa Mahima Avasthanena. He was situated in his own glory. He was never saddened due to being insulted in the many ways described above. Verse again. Rishabhadev began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cowpens, the homes of cowmen, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble, but he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and, being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinotaranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Vanchakalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhuryeva Chapatitanam Pavanavyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. How difficult this seemed. Rishabhadev, being in his own glory, meaning in his own space, just like Paramatma is within the body of every living entity, however, is not just affected. That is in the region of the heart doesn't mean that is between the ventricle, the right ventricle, or the near the aorta, or is in a completely different space, and is protected by his own spiritual energy, and is not touched by material elements. So it is like a shield. It's like sometimes we see some sci-fi thing when there is somebody creates a shield so people attack him or throw stuff at him and it just bounces off. This doesn't matter. You're in your own space. You can witness what is going on. So this is how the soul is as well, and the super soul. They're in a spiritual environment that has nothing to do with the material environment. So that whatever happens here, it's like being like guards in a prison. They're inside the prison, but they're on the other side of the bars. So they're not really affected by what they do. Of course, the analogy is not completely seal-proof, as the prisoners may throw stuff through the bars at the guards. But in the case of Rishabhadev or Paramatma, they're not affected. They're in a completely different atmosphere. And Lord Rishabhadev here, he toured in different places, basically everywhere. This is a list of things: cities and cow pens and gardens and hotels and hermitages and mines, and it means practically in every single part of the world, to benefit other living entities, because they could appreciate what he was doing, as he was giving an example of how to renounce, or they could hate the idea of someone who doesn't care about anything. In the same way, just like Prabhupada traveled around the world, and he was admired by some and feared by others and ignored by others and vilified by others. But Prabhupada was not affected by it. He was doing his job, he was doing his duty, and he was on the spiritual platform. So people may or may not appreciate that, and it's up to their good fortune if they do. I know I've told this before, but it's worth repeating, that there was one time when Bhavananda, then Bhavananda Goswami, was flying from one place to the next, and our jet set Swamis, at the time there were 11 appointed gurus, so there was a lot more territory to cover. So he had some duties in Australia, and then had to fly halfway across the world, and this was a constant lifestyle, and it's very tiring, very, very demanding. I know some of it, as I traveled before the pandemic. I used to travel a lot, and it's extremely exhausting. It sounds very romantic and adventurous to, oh yeah, I've been to that place and this place, but it's a lot of effort. It's tiring when you sit on an airplane and for 15 hours. Just one flight that takes 15 hours. I remember flying from Los Angeles to Singapore, and that took 18 hours in a tube with other people breathing their air. There's only 50% oxygen allowed in the cabin, 100% in the cockpit, but not in the cabin. And the seats are not exactly comfortable, and they're cramped. It's just a very difficult way to exist. And somehow or other, some of our devoted preachers, they have to do this sacrifice. So he was flying from one place to another for many hours, and because he had some wealthy disciples, they put him on business class or first class. So as he was flying, the flight attendant, she was not happy having a monk sitting among the regular karmis, that he was enjoying the privileges of an upgrade in flying. So she, by vocal and bodily movements, she demonstrated that she was not happy to have him there. She was huffing and puffing and sneering. So finally she got enough courage to speak her polluted mind to him and said, "I'm sorry, can I ask you a question, please?" He said, "Sure." "Why, if you're a spiritualist, are you flying first class?" And he thought for a moment and said, "Well, actually, I'm the only one who should be in this section of the plane, or on the plane at all, because I have a mission. My guru gave me the mission to spread love of God around the world. I have no particular interest in flying in any going anywhere, but I do it just as my duty to my spiritual master. And the flight attendant actually understood. She actually got the message. Actually, you're right. All these people, they just go to try to enjoy their senses. They're going to visit their relatives who they won't get any spiritual knowledge. They won't benefit the world. People are doing business just to make money so they can perform their sinful activities without impediment. So actually, yeah, he got the message that he was the only one that should be flying. So this is the position of devotees who go around the world, and they may be vilified, they may be ignored, they may be attacked many times. And as a brahmachari doing book distribution and harinam, I was attacked many times, not just once. I had a woman hit me with her purse just because I was trying to distribute books. Not even to her. People insulting me. Sure. I was just chanting the holy name, and people would come. Somebody kicked and broke my harmonium while I was chanting, minding my own business. These things would happen, but we have to become transcendental because we don't belong here. This is a temporary place. Just like if you are going from one place, let's say when some devotees travel from Philadelphia or from New York, and they come by bus or by train, so they have to change trains or they have to change buses and so on, and they stop at some bus stop in the middle of nowhere, and you don't make a home there. That is a temporary place where you just tolerate whatever is going on and you take the next bus. So this is how we should take this entire world, like a bus stop. It's not better than a bus stop. Maybe a little more luxurious. Maybe it's arranged. You're allowed to arrange personal. You decorate it the way you want, and you incorporate all the items that you think you need, but it's still a bus stop. You're going somewhere else. We're all transients. We're all homeless. We're in a world that is not welcoming. So whether we get fame or infamy, whether we get wealth or poverty, we should tolerate it, as Prabhupada mentions, just like Shitoshna Sukha Dukkha. This is just like the winter and the summer. You don't get depressed because the winter is coming and elated because the summer is coming. Yes, maybe you enjoy a particular climate, but the next season will come eventually. So Lord Rishabhadev, he didn't care about anything that was going on. He was living in his own atmosphere, completely absorbed, and he could walk the world alone without being angry at anyone. And anger is such a problem. They say that lust is sometimes able to be conquered. Some sages, and just with the passing of time, lust will diminish, and it can be pacified if not conquered. But anger is just a step ahead and takes the best out of us. And Lord Rishabhadev shows his example that anger can be controlled. It's very difficult. But imagine if people throw sticks and stones and dust and stool and urine, pass gas, and you become tolerant. So this is what the shloka means. Taror iva sahishnuna. That your behavior and your consciousness is not modified but by what anybody thinks of you, or how aggressively they demonstrate their hatred and disturbance because you exist, because you do what you do. One has to be more tolerant than a tree. A tree is a living entity that feels, of course, the consciousness is greatly diminished from that of a human being, but still. And people carve their initials on a tree and cuts the tree down, trims the tree, and the tree has to stand fully naked in the winter and the summer, and the fruits are plucked and the flowers are plucked. Yeah, no complaints. You may poetically say the tree is crying because the fruits are taken away, but this is just a poem. You don't hear any vocal discontent from the trees. They just sit, stand. Actually, they don't even sit. They just stand and tolerate. In order to be like that, or to acquire this quality, one has to fully realize that the material body and the material world are temporary. Deha smriti nahiyara samsara bandhana kahantara. This place is not going to stay. It may appear real, but it's not real. And the material body is going to just continue its decay until it's no longer inhabitable, and we will have to move. So that's what Dhirastatra Namuhyati means. The one who understands this is not disturbed, because one can understand that the body is simply a temporary place where you can make a home for a little while, and then you will be evicted by time. That is the deal. That is a contract. You can inhabit this body for a while, and then the eviction notice will come. As Prabhupada quotes from his Bhagavad Gita, Matra Sparsas tu Kaunteya, son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and the disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception of sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So how is it happiness needs to be tolerated? Because it may distract one from one's goal. Just like distress, like when one feels tired or ill, it seems like this is never going to end. I'm going to be exhausted for the rest of my life, or I'm going to be sick for the rest of my life. I don't even remember what is like feeling healthy. So one needs to tolerate that. In the same way, when one has a duty, a spiritual duty, maybe some material happiness comes in the form of praise, in the form of money, in the form of prasadam, in any shape. One has to tolerate it. It's not that one should ignore it, but one should understand, okay, I'm getting this now, but just like one can become famous, but one need to understand that the fame is not free. It comes with some problems. Whether you are a spiritualist or a materialist, fame is a problem. It could become one. Just like Radhanath Swami was visiting here, and he has I'm sure he has a problem being by himself, because so many people want to see him and touch him and get his blessings and talk to him, and so he has always and he's very personable and very personal. So everybody's just always following him everywhere. So even though that's part of fame, it's not particularly pleasant. When you want to be by yourself, you want to write a book, you want to chant your rounds, you want to eat in solitude or take a walk. And other people, and the materialists, that whether they're singers or actors or people in the world of sports, they cannot just go to the health food store or a supermarket to buy stuff. They have to disguise themselves, put a hat, put a wig, put glasses on. So you wanted fame, this is the entourage, this is the baggage that it comes with. So when one doesn't have any of these things that we accumulate thinking they are valuable, then peace may come with it. So, and one, in order to do that, it's not artificial. One has to be on the spiritual platform. That's the only way not to be affected, not to get angry. And just like Lord Rishabhadev was immediately attracted, the ruffians, the bad elements in society, as Prabhupada calls it, they're people trying to exploit others, and they have no moral compass. We see nowadays it's just no moral compass at all. People can do whatever they want. They may not get away with it, but they don't think so. Otherwise they wouldn't do it. There's no deterrent. People are corrupt. They're ignorant. They don't know what to do. There's no moral compass. And the solution is to take guidance, as the next verse quoted in the purport says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart and directs the wanderings of all living entities. So, in order for our compass to work, we have to listen to the Supreme Lord, who is seated in everyone's heart. And for that, one needs to become a full-time spiritualist, which is no small task. But the process of bhakti gives this option as to practice bhakti while one is doing other things. The body may be doing this or that. Maybe a gardener, maybe a cook, maybe milking cows, maybe driving a bus. But you can still practice bhakti. You can still realize the Lord within the heart. This is the beauty of this process. It doesn't require a separate endeavor. And Krishna is in everyone's heart, even in the heart of hogs and dogs. Of course, it's very uncommon. Well, I can think of the example of Shivananda Sena's dog. It wasn't his dog. It was a stray that he adopted him, and Lord Chaitanya was hand feeding him with coconut pulp and went back to God. But that's rare. So, and the Lord is guiding every living entity. We all have to turn in and listen. Therefore, we actually have to do like Lord Rishabhadev and eventually find our own guidance. The spiritual glory that he was enjoying is because he was situated in the self, and that is the goal for all practicing spiritualists, to understand who we are and live in that place 24/7, day after day. And everything else is actually quite petty, as it is temporary. All the disagreements, all the talking about I want to do this, or I feel like doing this, or all this stuff is so petty. We have to make whatever effort it takes to be situated in our own glory, which is serving the Lord of the heart. Okie dokie. I think that's quite enough. Thank you for your patience. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh. I don't know who you were calling on. Oh, okay. Should I ask?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
I was calling on you. You're the only one talking.
Okay, thanks. I'm wondering this. We hear a lot about the dangers of anger, and even what's that verse from meditating? Yeah. Anyways, anger, like eventually. I guess when our lust isn't satisfied, then anger comes, and then as that verse in the Gita explains, then we fall back down.
Yes, intelligence is lost.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that answered the question, but can you just elaborate on this and like the dangers and kind of like how it fits in that whole picture of like from contemplation, and then you end up falling back into the material whirlpool?
Well, it seems to be a simple process, and we see how this happens. That when we become lusty, we actually make very poor choices. They're based on the body. So for the gratification of the body, we just choose very poorly. We discriminate among people. We choose people by how they gratify our senses, and not because they are beneficial to us, because they're spiritually elevated and we can derive some benefit out of serving. And once you get into that groove of lust, then there is no end to it, because it's never satisfied. It's like trying to satiate our thirst with dirt. You need water, not dirt. You can eat as much dirt as you want, or even if it's mud, because there is a content of moisture. You think, oh, because there is some water in here, this is going to satiate my thirst. But you never do that. You can try lust in all its different incarnations, and it will never satisfy the self, because we are spiritual, and the only way to satiate our heart's desire is by serving Krishna and his devotees. And then anger comes because you're frustrated. There's no way you can satisfy lust. So what are you going to do? Just say, oh, okay, whatever. No, it doesn't work that way. It is a deep, bitter frustration in the heart that is not healed is there, is festering, because lust wants to burn everything you possess, including your intelligence. So anger surges out of this deep frustration, this bitterness, this existential angst. And once anger takes over, then there is no tell what will happen, because you make very poor decisions at that point. You make the most terrible decisions. One can say anything that will destroy relationships. Just a simple word or two spoken in anger can destroy a relationship that has been building on trust and faith and friendship for years. So it's an old devouring fire that wants to eat everything and never be satiated. And one of the things that destroys is one's power to be rational. And the anger cannot be, basically, anger has to burn through. It's like when there is a fire burning, and it's raging fire, and the fire department comes and it's burning. It started to burn a house, and if it's burning, or a forest, and it's burning so hot that they will have to let it do its job. So this is what anger does. It burns right through. There's no way to stop it at that point. So this has to be caught early, before it becomes anger. And I found that in my relationship, at least with my wife, who is the person I live with, that when we become frustrated or angry at each other, we just basically take a time out for 15 or 30 minutes and come back to each other. And after that has blown by, because there's no way to solve anything once one is situated in that anger, in that zone. So it's better to just let it blow away, and then one even forgets what the cause was, because anger doesn't care about what the cause is. It just wants to destroy things. Yasuda Prabhu?
Haribol Prabhu, thank you so much for sharing some book distribution stories. It's always a pleasure to hear, always very exciting. And it made me want to ask you this question that I still can't seem to resolve. That if someone is offensive towards a devotee, we understand that there should be some reaction to that. They could suffer a lot. But what if that devotee is not offended? What if while you're distributing books and some person does something terrible to you, but like Rishabdev, you just brush it off entirely, you don't even consider it? Does that person still have to suffer the reaction, and why?
Yeah, the fact that the person is not affected doesn't mean that the offense didn't take place. One has to, it's like, I don't know, go to the store and you buy something and you never used it, but you still had to pay for it. I just go to Walmart and say, I'm gonna take this cabinet, but I won't pay because I'm not gonna ever use it. No, you still have to buy it. So you act improperly towards a living entity, and that incurs into karma. Even if the living entity is not a devotee, what to speak of a Vaishnava? So I do pray to please Krishna, take away my desire or action to criticize others, particularly Vaishnavas, but just anybody, and to offend anybody. because one may commit an offense unknowingly and still has to suffer for it. Just like Prabhupada gave the example of a child putting their hand on fire, there's still a reaction to that. Even though the child is innocent and is ignorant, doesn't know any better. So we may witness, or we may be the actors in a point that you may come back to someone and say, I'm so sorry that I said this about you. I was speaking in anger, or I was ignorant, or I didn't know the circumstances, or I did this, and I know, and the other person is not even aware that anything took place. Or they were aware and said, no, thank you. You actually helped me. I could realize this or that. But still, the action is there. So there has to be a reaction of some sort. So it is, that's why it's padam yad vipadam natisham. It's a difficult world where there is danger at every step. And it's not danger because a snake may bite you and kill you. It's because one may inadvertently offend somebody without knowing. And even if the person doesn't take offense or is not affected by it, still that is a tickable, no, is a ticket, meaning there's a price tag to everything you do. So it's a difficult world to live in because there will be a reaction to everything you do. So one has to actually situate oneself on the spiritual platform in order to avoid this. And even when it happens, when one is in this spiritual platform, look at Rishabhadev. God himself, we can't get more on the spiritual platform than God himself. Totally detached, totally and Visuddha Sattva and the transcendental mode of goodness, walking around just to give his darshan, just to help others, just by seeing Rishabhadev, people will get benefit. And still, the ruffians of the world just immediately saw him as a target to victimize him. Of course, he wasn't affected by it. But this is the situation that we live in. Anything you do will have a consequence. So we better do things on the spiritual platform because they will have a spiritual consequence. While in the material world, there's no avoidance. And people may ask, why is this happening to me? But it's happened to you because you've done something in the past that justifies that this will happen to you. And Krishna is somewhat biased, even though he is unbiased towards the devotees, so he just minimizes the reactions. But it's a dangerous world where everything you do will have a price tag, will have a consequence. And if you're dealing with Maya instead of dealing with Krishna, then the price tag is unaffordable. It means that we will never pay the principal, we'll always pay the interest. If you deal with Maya, Maya is a loan shark. You will never pay for that item. Yes, Taraka Prabhu. I'm sorry, 1 second. Yashodhan Prabhu, did that more or less answer your question? Do you have anything to add?
No, thanks, Guru. It gives me a lot to think about.
Thank you. Taraka Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. I have something to add to Yashudev's question. Srila Prabhupada explained to us that devotees will typically not take offense when, at least a devotee who has a level of advancement is not going to be offended, regardless of how someone might behave towards him. He'll remain humble and tolerant and not take offense. But the offender is case because the real problem in offending Vaishnavas is that when you offend a Vaishnava, Krishna, he will not take offense. But the policy when it comes to offenses committed against his devotees. So therefore, when someone offends some unfortunate, and so the offender is forgiven by the devotee. The devotee may immediately forgive. He may never take offense to start with, but to actually approach the devotee and beg forgiveness before Krishna will forgive. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a child and the parent. Child is innocent, and someone might insult the child, and the child may not even have sense enough to understand that he's been insulted. But if the parent witnesses any sort of offense committed towards their child, they will never tolerate. They will become fierce. There'll be some kind of serious reaction. So Krishna and he regard for his devotee. I had a question, but I don't know. It's already after.
That's okay.
Regarding Dasya Prema's question, describes in the gaining birth amongst the demoniac species, animal species. Talks about the demoniac gradually sinking down to the most abominable type of existence. And he explains that the gateway to that hellish condition is there are three elements. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar. So lust, anger, and greed are the gateways to. So curbing anger, very, very important. I should shut up. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar. Thank you for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So I hope you all have a Krishna conscious day. Tomorrow, Saturday, we are having Akandadi Prabhu give the Bhagavatam class directly from Wales. I believe he is in Wales. And it's the next verse 31. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you for your patience. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Damodar ki jai. Hari Hari Bol.